Hi, I'm Bradley.
And I'm Brendan.
And on today's episode of Story Proof, we are talking about the film Tall Tale from 1995.
Yeah, we're diving way back into the 90s on this one. I don't want to call it a time capsule of the 90s, but it feels like one of those time capsules. It's a Disney movie. It's very clearly made for a younger audience when you actually sit and watch it. Like watching it now as an adult, you realize kind of, okay, this script isn't exactly like Shakespeare.
I was going to say
like
good,
that.
but fair.
Okay, good. Shakespeare. Different.
I mean, yeah, this movie, in the nicest way possible, not a particularly good movie, but I think the parts of it that are good are very good, and it's still enjoyable enough. But yeah, watching this as an adult, you're like, man, nothing's happening, nothing's going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of repeated dialogue in this.
Yeah.
We spend so much time with like the first legend with Pecos Bill, and then we get Paul Bunyan and John Henry, and then they don't really they don't do a lot after that.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have Paul Bunyan, played by Oliver Platt, just fucking chewing the scenery as he always does.
And there's our West Wing cameo for the day.
Yep. I've got a few more connections to this one later as well. We get a few funny lines from him, but it really is very much like the Pecos Bill and Daniel's story. I kind of maybe wanted a little bit more of them. The movie's, I think, about an hour 36.
Yeah.
So a little on the shorter side. I don't necessarily think it should have been longer. But I just feel like we spend a bit too much time with them just sort of sitting around talking.
Well, the movie officially has like a subtitle of The Wild Adventures of Pecos Bill or something like that. I can't exactly remember the exact wording. But it very much focuses on Pecos Bill, probably rightfully so, because its biggest star in this movie at the time was Patrick Swayze, who plays Pecos Bill.
Yeah.
And this, as you mentioned before, Oliver Platt, this cast is actually really stacked.
Dude, fuck this cast. This cast is dumb. Like, top to bottom, every single person in this is like a well-known person. So you've got the legends. So I would say the three legends, four if you do count Calamity Jane. So you've got Pecos Bill, who is played by Patrick Swayze. I will say I watched this movie with my mom recently, and I was like, who do you think that is? And she's like, I don't know. Do I know this person? And then like a scene later, she's like, oh my God, that's Patrick Swayze.
She couldn't tell from the beginning?
No, couldn't. To be fair, the first time you see him,
that's true.
It doesn't focus on him too much. I don't think it was until after he and the boy are talking at the horse that my mom's like, oh my God, that's Patrick Swayze. Yeah, so you've got him, and then you do have Oliver Platt, my absolute favorite legend. You want to make a movie great, put him in it. Done. Thank you. Playing Paul Bunyan. Just love it.
Perfect casting.
I was like, you know what, though? He's another one. He's got so much facial hair and stuff, like the big hat that he wears.
Yeah.
I could see people not necessarily knowing that it's him. And then for John Henry, we do have Roger Aaron Brown. And he is just, there's something about him. He is such a kind soul. Yeah. Every time John Henry talks in this movie, I'm just like swooning. It's so nice. He's so sweet. He's such a loving person in this. We do have Catherine O'Hara almost making a cameo as Calamity Jane.
It's a glorified cameo.
And what's fucking crazy to me is that scene with her and Pecos Bill. That is what I remembered from this as a kid. Yeah. Is where he's just like calmly folding his arms in front of him while she shoots 1,800,000 rounds of ammunition from 2 6-shooters.
Well, that was like one of the main, like, you remember how with VHSs, when you were watching like a Disney movie or something like that, they would have like the previews at the beginning of the tape before it actually got to the movie.
Yeah. And
it would give you like trailers, quote unquote, of the movies. I remember specifically this movie being sold through one of those, like advertised through that. And I remember specifically that scene being a part of the little trailer for that, where he folds his arms, like you were saying, and Calamity's just shooting up a storm around him, drawing his outline in the woods behind him. And then I remember specifically Scott Glenn, who we haven't talked about yet, the final scene where he's like, "We're coming." Yeah. And then he shouts, "Not on our land," and just swings the axe. Like, I have such a vivid, like, core memory of that. It sticks in my head to this day. and I cannot. But sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, I mean that's fair because I that's one of those things that always stuck with me as well. Scott Glenn, we do have him playing JP Styles, the a big bad guy. Again, chewing up some scenery,
but rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
He's a villain in a '90s kids movie.
Yeah. And I will say that there is a funny thing with him towards the end where it's like, just in case you didn't know that this guy was the bad guy, everyone else is using fairly standard, like, cowboy-esque six-shooters.
Mm-hmm.
He uses a German Mauser pistol, which if you don't know what that is, think of a German pistol from World War II. That's it. That's how you know he's the bad guy, because he's got the World War II German Nazi pistol. And I was like, really? He couldn't just use a shotgun? No, we got to make... Just in case you did, and this is late in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, just in case you didn't already really know he's the bad guy.
It's also incredibly weird considering this movie's supposed to be, like, around the turn of the 20th century.
Yep.
And like...
I mean, I guess you could maybe get by that it's the dream sequence part. Yeah. Kind of. I don't know.
I don't know. The line between what is real and what isn't in this movie is not incredibly well drawn.
No.
Like it doesn't play because there are some moments where like everybody sees the tall tales and then at the end they like fade into nothingness. And it's like, are they delusions or are they there or what's going on? What are they?
I mean, the good news is ultimately it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
That is the one thing I will say. So we've got Nick Stahl is the main character, Daniel Hackett. I feel like he's one of those people that I did not know him by name, but when I see him, I know him.
Yeah.
And then we do have fucking the two craziest castings in this for me. There are three, but one of them's not as much. We do have Zeb, played by Scott Wilson. So Scott Wilson, he's one of those people, I saw him in The Walking Dead. He plays Herschel in The Walking Dead. And once I saw him in that and started rewatching things, I'm like, oh my God, this dude's in everything, and I just never knew who he was. So it is interesting that we've got him. Also, talking about Nick Stahl. Nick Stahl was in a few episodes of Fear the Walking Dead. I think that's kind of funny. Yeah. Zeb also in this. I love that he plays Herschel in The Walking Dead. He's a very well-spoken person in just about anything. And in this, he's the guy that's like, well, how am I going to get better at killing them if I don't practice? That's him. Fucking hilarious.
We're gonna get to those guys.
Oh my God, it's so funny. But then the two craziest fucking casting things in this is there are 4 characters that are men in top hats who smoke, so you can tell they're businessmen. 3 of them don't speak. 1 of them does. It's fucking William H. Macy.
Yeah, and he's uncredited.
Yeah, fucking uncredited in like the 90s. Like he's not like super big, but he's well known at that point.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking, he's the only one that has lines. He has all of 3 lines. Speaking of people who have 3 fucking lines, Jared fucking Harris is in this as, I had to look up the character's name, Head Thug Pug.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
He's got 3 lines.
One of them's really funny when he's like, look, it's someone's trigger finger. That's a funny fucking line.
But I get it because I guess Jared Harris wasn't as well known in the 90s, so he's just kind of making his way. But that's freaking Moriarty, man.
Dude, he's still such a talented actor, though. Like, everything I've seen him in, I'm like, this dude, not in this. In this, he does the worst Southern accent in this fucking movie. I mean, it is like, people made fun of fucking Keanu Reeves and Dracula. I feel like this is that level of Southern accent.
But this is not the same caliber of movie that Dracula was supposed to be.
God, no. No, God bless him, it's bad. And yeah, the first time I rewatched this recently, I'm looking at him leaning against the counter, because in the first scene he's in, he doesn't talk. And I'm like, is that Jared Harris? Because everyone in this movie has like, I think even he's got like a big mustache, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But you're just like, dude, what the fuck? This fucking cast is so fucking stacked. And yeah, I mean, fucking Catherine O'Hara shows up for 1 scene.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you need. And then, yeah, the dad in this, who is in a little bit in the beginning and then gets shot and then is not in the movie again till the end.
It's freaking Stephen Lang.
Dude, fucking playing like, not a bad guy, playing a fairly nice person, a loving dad.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I don't know how I feel about it.
But it weirdly works.
Yeah.
Like Stephen Lang is a great actor in and of itself.
Yeah,
in
Stephen Lang's one of those people.
but-
If you don't know him by name, the thing I always think of is in Avatar,
Yeah.
the Marine like captain who refuses to fucking die. Yeah, that's Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
And in this, he's just playing a little
He's just
podunk county farmer type person.
yeah. He's just a guy.
Yeah,
Dad.
just a dude.
Trying to keep his farm and his land from the evil robber barons.
Yep.
But
It's interesting. The
Yeah.
casting is pretty stacked.
yeah, this movie, if you haven't seen it, it's very much like a kid's western in a lot of ways. It takes place in that sort of turn of the century area where the West is dying for the sake of progress, and there's a question of, is that good or not?
Yeah, and it is interesting when you talked about this being like a kid's western. Is I saw, because I was looking into some of the stuff about this movie before it came out.
Mhm.
Because this movie, one thing that's interesting to me is they actually filmed it in '93 and then it was released in '95. Anytime something like that happens, I'm always curious about why. I'm like, why did this sit on a shelf for a hot minute before it came out?
Yeah.
But one thing that I saw is that there were people, which this to me kind of blew my mind a little bit, is that it was likened to The Wizard of Oz
Yeah.
because of how well it would play to adults and children.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree. That seems like a bit of a stretch to me. I don't know. It's hard for me to compare those two fucking movies in the first place.
Yeah. I can see where they're coming from, because you've got this sort of, you start off in this sort of Western setting where everything is ideal, but the kid doesn't necessarily want the life that they're living in now. They're dreaming of more. They're dreaming of better. They're dreaming of getting out of their
Yeah.
current lot in life, and they want to do something different. And then they get teleported by one way or another into this fantastical adventure world where Dorothy goes into Oz and Daniel floats along on a boat in a day for night shot, and then he
Oh my god.
what
Fucking the day to night shots, day as
Yeah.
night shots.
But he floats along. He ends up in this endless desert, and then Pecos Bell shows up.
No.
well, no.
Zeb shows up, and the other guy whose name I don't remember.
Zeb, I when I watched it the other day to prepare for this episode, I was like, this is like so proto Pintel and Rigetti from Pirates of the Caribbean that I cannot
Fucking
handle it.
fair.
Like these are the same characters, just not as well.
Oh, it is Grub. My God, there are two characters in this that are completely unrelated. One's named Pug, one's named Grub. The shit.
But there's even tornadoes. There's even tornadoes that kind of herald the transition into the fantastical world. So,
Excuse me, sir. It's a twister.
yeah, I can see where they would draw those kind of connections, but it definitely doesn't feel like it has that same sort of reach in the
Yeah.
overall like final product. I mean, obviously not. The Wizard of Oz has, lasted for over 80 years now.
This movie also did not do well, like financially.
Oh no.
It just did not. I think the budget was around 32 million. I think before it hit the video market, it got like 8 million.
Yeah.
So not great.
No.
It's not super well regarded. It really is just one of those. I think if you saw it, because for me, what I always think of is we had like TV stations growing up.
Yeah.
TNT. I always think of this movie in TNT. They showed it every 5 minutes. And like you were talking about earlier with the trailers, is they would always have that scene of
Yep.
her shooting the outline of him, and they showed it every 3 minutes. So they could
Yep.
show you the movie every 5 minutes. And it just came on all the time. So I do think it's interesting that it was one of those films that it didn't do great financially. It hit the video market, and then they were just like, for the love of God, play this movie every chance you get, please. It needs to make money. I will say that there are a few moments that CGI wise look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
At the end, when the twister comes down that he rides, when he's riding it, not great. But when
Yeah.
it comes down, I'm like, damn, they
not a
put
bad
some effort
effect,
into
yeah.
this one.
It's not a bad effect. The first Twister isn't like the
No, most of the other Twisters are kind of meh.
Yeah,
The blue ox, it just looks dumb.
it's
I
not,
don't think that's one of those things that you could ever make look good, though. Is the thing.
maybe, maybe not. But the funny thing about that is it's not CGI.
I know.
It's just vegetable, like non-toxic vegetable
Yeah.
dye that they dyed the cow with.
Oh yeah, it's very fucking clear it's not CGI because its shade changes colors a few times throughout the movie. At the end, you're like, "Damn, that thing is blue as shit." Oh my god.
Yeah.
And for everything else you would say about it, I would say I think a lot of the costume pieces in this are really good.
Yeah.
There's not anything that to me sticks out too much. There are a lot of moments when you're with JP Styles and his train car thing. It's like some weird semi double decker train. All of the shit with him in that makes me think of the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Dude, like hardcore, very steampunkian levels of technology.
Yeah.
At one point, he is literally doing the supervillain thing where he's got a cat in his lap, and I think it's a hairless cat too.
It's like a hairless sphinx cat or something. Like, so it's very much clear again. This is the bad guy.
Yeah, he's these two Chinese women serving him his meals. You're like, this is stereotypical from one end to the other.
Yeah.
But it is funny that like all of his scenes, it's like he'll go somewhere and back on the train, go somewhere, back on the train, go somewhere, back on the train, in front of the train, on top of the train. It's like the entire trail of his movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that stuff is good. And like I said, when it gets the good stuff, it really gets the good stuff.
Yeah.
When John Henry is doing his competition, I think is really good. Some of the stuff with Paul Bunyan, I enjoy. Him using his quote-unquote woodsman's axe, that is a fucking dwarven axe from Moria if I've ever seen one. Are you shitting me?
Further proof that Oliver Platt should have been a dwarf in Lord of the Rings.
Dude, he says something about, I was the one who invented the double-headed woodsman's axe. And then he pulls it out, and I'm like, I have never seen a double-bladed axe like that was not made for murder. Like, that blade is far too big, sir. But yeah, some of the stuff with him is really good. When they're breaking out of the prison and he has to apologize, I was like, that is getting to. I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit more, because you and I were talking about this a while back, that, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast somewhat recently, that I've been rewatching a lot of action-y movies from the 90s, and a lot of them, they just have something about them that just makes them so fucking enjoyable, even beyond if it's a good movie or not. I always think of the Brandon Fraser Mummy movie.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like the peak, like action adventure type movie out there.
Yeah.
I was telling you about rewatching The Three Musketeers with Oliver Platt.
Yeah.
And it's so like swashbuckly and enjoyable. Yeah. There are times where I can feel this movie starting to get there, and it just never sticks it. It never sticks long enough. There are a few parts. There's one really sad part when he's telling the three legends about the electricity and the lights, and they're like, well, what about the stars? He's like, I guess we just won't see them. And they all look up at the stars, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is a really nice moment.
Yeah.
And then it's just whatever the next. It sucks that there are so many really good moments in this, and really good character moments, and there's some good lines. It's just not consistent enough.
Yeah. It's a very uneven movie.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about this movie to me, just kind of researching it in preparation to see like what kind of behind the scenes stuff, there's actually two things. Number one, Gary Sinise was supposed to be the father in this movie originally.
Fair.
But
was he filming Forrest Gump
during 93? Yeah, probably. He probably left this for Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So, pretty decent career move on his choice, I guess. But the biggest thing that's crazy for me is, did you know that Subway used to have like toys with their kids' meals, like every other like?
They have kids' meals?
Yeah, they have kids' meals, and like they're like, I guess 6-inch subs now that you get that are just like ham and cheese or something like that. Yeah. But they had kids' meals in the 90s, and they would give you toys with them the same way every other fast food chain does.
Interesting.
And you know what?
No fucking way.
Subway had toys that tied into this movie.
What were they? Just like the characters?
Yeah, there was just little figurines. You had one that was Paul Bunyan. You had one that was Daniel Hackett. You had one that was Pecos Bill. I think they might have had variations, and then you had one with John Henry, of course, too.
I have a question. Is the John Henry one literally just a buff black man in overalls?
I don't know. I couldn't find a picture of it.
I mean, that is him for most of this movie.
But probably.
He literally wears like a shirt one time.
But I know that what I was reading, they were like variations of like, I think you could get one of just Pecos Bill and then one with the horse. You could get one with just Paul Bunyan and then one with Paul Bunyan and his ox.
Oh my god, it'd be funny to just get the ox. Just get the horse. Damn it.
But that and it's I guess they were just like little PVC figures or something like that, you know, like just little figurines that you would get.
I mean, mostly McDonald's.
But that was just kind of crazy to me, like that they would have that
of all movies.
Of all movies. I mean, it's not like they wouldn't have done it before, presumably with other like Disney related content, and of course, you know, back in the 90s with the animated films, like Burger King and McDonald's were all over different animated films having merchandise. Like Burger King had a bunch of I remember Burger King had a bunch of like Pocahontas toys and stuff like that when that movie came out and stuff like that. But yeah,
literally the only ones I remember are the gold Pokemon cards.
Yeah, that happened.
That's like the only thing I remember. Fuck, I still have mine. I know exactly where it is too.
I still have those. Burger King used to have like the glasses that had like the Disney art on them and stuff like that. We still have a few of those lying around the house somewhere.
Interesting that I kind of feel that I had the thought before and I was like, I don't know, but I feel like that especially solidifies it. I just feel like they thought this movie was going to be much bigger than it was.
Yeah.
Like with the cast that they had going into it, the fact it was a kid-based movie coming out in the early to mid 90s, Disney tags on it. Yeah. You've got all these big name actors and characters, and then it just came out and
like you said, it got like 8 million at the box office.
Yeah,
and it was like
on a $32 million budget.
So I don't know.
So this movie might make its budget back in maybe 10 years from now on VOD. I mean, I bought it recently, so they're getting a little something.
Maybe so.
Making $200 a year.
There you go.
But yeah, honestly, I feel like the best thing for us at this point is to just kind of go through the plot. It's not the most complicated story. Some funny things happen.
Yeah.
There are some good moments, some funny moments. But yeah, honestly, the movie, when it starts out, you're in an area called Paradise Valley. And we've got our main character, Daniel Hackett. He is 12 in this.
Mm-hmm.
He is very world-weary for a 12-year-old. But his father, Stephen Lang, is always telling him stories about Pecos Bill, Paul Bunyan, John Henry, and all of these just bigger than life, these true tall tales.
Yeah.
And he just all day long, and they kind of get into it a little bit because he's like, Dad, these people don't exist. These are just stories. And his dad's like, no, they're real. This is a real thing. Like he is so determined that these are real. So it kind of causes a bit of a rift between them.
Well, on top of just Daniel not really liking being a farmer's kid and working on the farm, and he wants to get more out of life.
And he talks about New York City a few different times, and this is around the time that the idea of sending a telegram across country is a crazy concept. Electric light bulbs are a crazy concept. Yeah. So, that's fair.
The opening shots, one of the first opening shots of the movie is actually Daniel seeing a car coming into Paradise Valley, and he calls it a horseless wagon.
I just watched this movie and don't think I picked up on that. Or maybe just didn't remember it.
So Daniel and his father, they get into a little bit of an argument, and later they go fishing with one another, and that's when he tells him these tall tales about Pecos Bill and all that. And they have to go in for the night, and Daniel's father goes to a big town meeting because JP, the big bad of the movie, is there to buy up all the land so that they can put their railroad through Paradise Valley. And, you know, he's offering, I don't remember exactly how much he's offering at the beginning of the movie.
But, yeah, I remember him at the end where he just keeps rattling off new
Yeah.
numbers, but he's offering enough that a lot of people want to go along with it.
Yeah, pretty much the entire town seems to be like, okay, this is inevitable. I'm just going to take my money and go with it and let them do what they got to do. And then Daniel's father stands up and and says,
kiss
hey,
my ass.
Yeah, I'm not selling. So automatically he puts a target on his back.
Yeah.
So Daniel's followed him to the meeting house and is kind of watching the meeting from outside and everything. He sees his father stand up to everything. And so his father catches Daniel there. They start making their way back home. It's raining. Everything's crazy. Daniel's father gets shot.
Yeah, this is a weird, like, he knows what's, like, everyone knows.
Yeah.
And then JP just looks at his gang and is like, get him. And, like, you know what's about to happen. So, I mean, of course, they get to him, and you kind of think at first that he's straight up dead.
Yeah.
He's not. He's injured. Do you remember where he gets shot?
It's got to be in, like, his back or his chest, right?
See, I thought he got shot, like, maybe in his stomach or chest, and then at the end, he's walking with, like, a cane, and I'm like, maybe I misunderstood. Give me your deed. No. Leg shot. All right.
Yeah, so the big point is he's got his deed in his jacket pocket to his land. JP wants the deed.
Yeah.
So Daniel's father gives Daniel the deed and is like, run, don't let them get this deed. And Daniel, watches his father get shot and then runs off.
Yeah. What a bitch.
And he ends up not going back home, which maybe is like the smart thing to do. I don't know. Because
he's 12.
Yeah, he runs to he and his father's boat. It magically comes untied.
Bruh. It is tied with the rattiest fucking shoestring looking piece of rope. You deserved to have your boat stolen, sir.
Yeah. So he lays down in the boat. It comes untied magically and starts floating down. I guess it's a river. I thought it was a lake at first, but it has to be a river because it just sort of it keeps going.
Dude, he also ends up in the middle of a desert. Yeah. This doesn't make sense. Clearly, this bitch can fly.
So he falls. By the way, this is like one of the most obvious like day for night shots, like we talked about earlier. Like it's just got that classic blue hue where everybody was just like, okay, we don't want to shoot at night. We're gonna make this happen. So the boat floats down the river. He falls asleep in there, and it goes through a canyon and all this stuff. It ends up in a desert. There's buzzards, flying around everywhere. And then the two goofiest damn people on the face of the planet show up and are like poking at him and getting ready to shoot him.
Yeah, they're like toying with him for a while as well. And it's weird that it's like what they do is mean, but they're not. I don't know. This is weird. Like they're going to kill him. They're going to rob him and they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
But they're not like mean about it. They're just too dumb to really. Because so they go in there. He's like, "Ooh, I hear jingle jingle," and we got 16 cents. Yeah. And then they talk about, "Ooh, are any of his fillings gold?" And they look in, they're like, "Oh, 4." And then the one guy with horrible teeth is like, "Looks like someone doesn't brush." And then they like get back a little ways from him, and the one guy's aiming a rifle at him. I will say, there's one stupid thing with the rifle. When the kid is in the boat, he aims the rifle, and he's like, "Get up." But at the scene where the grown-ass man is looking down at the ground with a boy in it and is aimed above his chest level, what the fuck are you aiming at? That gun is 6 feet above his fucking head. Look, hey, you better get out of there, or that cloud up there is gonna fucking get it. I'm gonna do that cloud in.
Yeah, so these guys, they...
Dude, it's... Okay. It's stupid, but it is funny.
It's funny.
That line that I mentioned earlier about, let me kill him. You got to kill the last 2 in a row. Well, that's because I'm better at it than you. Well, how am I supposed to get better if I can't practice? Okay, fine.
It is funny. It's very funny.
I will say the accents I was just doing, remarkably close to how they sound.
Close. Exactly. It's very exaggerated. Like redneck and everything else.
While I'm thinking about it, the stories that he was telling about Pecos Bill earlier, there are two in particular, or really three, that are going to come into play here.
Yeah.
Is he rides his horse Widowmaker, and when he's not doing that, he lassos twisters and rides them around. Cool, whatever. He is able to shoot off people's trigger fingers because that's much more PG than just saying he shoots people in the face.
Yeah. And
he never kills a man on Sunday.
Yeah.
It just hit me. I was like, literally all of those are about to come into play.
It's all very important. Good call.
Yeah. I was like, ooh, we didn't talk about that.
So, these guys are taking aim at Daniel, and they're about to shoot him. And all of a sudden, what is it? The twister shows up first.
I'm in my head, I'm like, I think the trigger finger comes off first, and then he makes the entrance.
So the shots ring off, and the trigger finger for the two guys gets shot off.
And you want to know how you know it's a trigger finger? Because they go, ow, my trigger finger. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, at the end when he's shooting off, oh my God, trigger finger, trigger finger. I'm like, please God, just
it's basically the Wilhelm scream in this movie.
Fair. Some guy hit copy and then just paste.
But so then after the trigger fingers get shot off, you see it. You look back and you see a twister in the background, and all of a sudden a horse comes riding out with the twister towards them.
Very pretty horse. Yes, I mean, very like Black Beauty looking horse.
Yeah. And then these two guys are immediately like, okay, we're gonna run, and they do the most like obviously. I want to know if this was obviously them like just trying to look like they're running, or if this was somehow a character choice.
Well, also keep in mind that he's like, I ain't gonna kill you. I never kill a man on Sunday. And then the one guy's like, but it's Wednesday. Wednesday? And then he like cocks the pistols, and then that's when they run. Yeah. It's like, that's a funny fucking line. Is it dumb? Yes. Is it funny? Yes.
Yeah. So, and it...
Yeah, them running, though, is just...
Like, I can't tell if it's just them actually, like, just trying to look like they're running, or if it's, like...
I don't think it matters.
It's just so goofy. If you watch it, you will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so goofy. Pecos Bill runs them down on the horse, lassos them, and has a bit of a to-do with them. Gives them the, I don't kill people on Sunday.
Yeah.
And
but it's Wednesday.
Levels the guns at them, and they go off running again, and he just sort of shoots in the air like he's not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then he and Daniel have their first little heart-to-heart, I guess you could say.
Sure. I mean, it's just story stuff.
Yeah.
Who are you? I'm Daniel. Who are you? I'm Pecos. Where are you going? Home. Where are you going? Mexico. Cool.
Yeah, the biggest...
It really does boil it down to that, though.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing about this whole first interaction is that Daniel doesn't believe that he's actually Pecos Bill.
Yeah.
So
which, to be fair,
why
you saw him ride it on a twister. I'd immediately be like, cool, Pecos Bill, got it, sold, done.
Yeah, but I don't know. Daniel could just be thinking that it's the desert heat frying his brain.
He saw him shoot off trigger fingers.
I don't know.
That's incredibly impressive.
Anybody that's good with a gun could do that, right, Bradley?
Fuck no. Are you shitting me?
In any case, yeah, it boils down to Pecos says that he's going to go to Mexico, and then Daniel's like, I'm not going to Mexico. I got to go back north to Paradise Valley.
He says, okay, we'll hop on, and then the next scene, he says, I'm going to Mexico. So he was about to kidnap this kid and take him to fucking Mexico. And then in that scene, when they go camping, is when he's like, all right, I'll help you.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same conversation as seen later, if even.
And to be clear, all of this that we've talked about so far has happened within, like, the first, like, 20 minutes of the movie. Like, this movie's going quick at this point.
And I'm not going to lie, I find the first maybe 30-minute, honestly, until they meet John Henry, I'm pretty bored.
Yeah.
Most of it, I'm kind of like, whatever. But yeah, they are together, and now they're, okay, we're going to go to Paradise Valley. And Daniel's telling him, like, oh, well, if I go back, there's 100 men against me. And Pecos is like, oh, 100 to 1 man odds. I know how we can help. We need the biggest man of all. We need Paul Bunyan. And then we go on a side quest to find Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, Yeah, side quest is a good way to put it.
Dude, it is literally a video game where you're like, I know the big bad, I know where he is, I have to round up my companions before I go pick a fight with him.
Yeah.
It is 100% what this is.
So you get this shot of like this new sort of steampunk mechanical like log splitter.
It is the dumbest. I swear to God, Wild Wild West is all I can think of. Where you see things, you're like, this is supposed to look technologically advanced, but it just looks dumb.
Yeah.
It's just like something someone designed to look really scary. Because at one point, there's like really giant saw blades on the back that are like 1.5 feet apart. And I'm like, bro, what are you cutting with this?
Yeah.
Like, that just looks like a giant saw blade, but a slow one.
Yeah.
So when they get to the logging camp, there's an interesting thing where as they are on their horse riding by like the front office area, there's a guy inside doing a telegram. And it says in there, like, young boy and cowboy on horse, wanted dead or alive, $1,000. That's all it fucking says. Keep that shit in mind, because there's a line here in a minute that pisses me off. So they're here looking for Paul Bunyan. It's a logging camp, blah, blah, blah. They're asking around. No one seems to know him. And then there's this one old man that's like, I know Paul Bunyan because I fed him flapjacks once. And you're like, okay.
Sure, okay.
Let's hear it, old man. And then at this point, these group of men, these loggers, descend upon them and they say, give us the deed. And that's where I'm like, what the fuck? These are not JP's men. These are loggers who got the telegram that just said, because we saw him with the telegram written out. How the fuck do they know about the deed?
Yeah.
What did they know they were just given a murder order for a child. And they're like, got it, done. And then there's this like long drawn out fight scene where it's like 15 guys fighting Pecos Bill. The dumbest fucking thing is, so they got the logs, the biggest fucking trees I've ever seen in my life, are on this like conveyor belt that's going towards the saw blade. So you fucking know someone's gonna get stuck on that. It's the kid. The kid gets his foot stuck under a chain in a way that is physically fucking impossible unless he laid on the log and had the chain put over his foot. When you look, I'm like, dude, the angle that you would have had to fly backwards upside down for this to have fucking landed like this is dumb as hell. Also, this kid, half his lines in this movie are him going, help, help me, help. He sounds just like that, by the way. He does not sound like that. But it is funny. He's like, help, help. Pecos is like, I'm coming, while he's fighting off like 15 fucking dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the old man told him where Paul Bunyan is. They get through all this. Widowmaker, the horse, comes in and just fucking barrels like 5 dudes like it's nothing.
Good job, Widowmaker.
Dude, fucking that horse, it's a big ass horse. It's not like the biggest in ever, but it's a very, God, such a pretty fucking horse, man.
Yeah.
Just jet black from one end to the other. Yeah. So now they know where Paul Bunyan is. There are a few intercut scenes throughout the movie where it's the bad guys trying to find them. I think after this one is where they're in the desert and he's like, look, it's someone's trigger finger. And JP's like, good, I know exactly what to do with this information. And then he's back on his train.
Which is the first moment of this movie. Maybe not the first, because the loggers jumping everybody just immediately might be the first. But this is where we really get that blurring of like, what is real and what is not.
Right.
What is the fantasy and what is not. And
also, they're following a boat down a river, and then all of a sudden they're in the middle of a desert, and they're like, yeah, we found him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, fucking how?
Yeah.
Like, what in the shit?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say too much, because it's kind of like the same thing that happened in Milo and Otis, where he's in the box going down the river, and then all of a sudden, boom, desert. I don't actually think he's in desert. I think he's in like swamplands. So I will give the cat more leeway than I give to Daniel. Okay. I think it is the same fucking thing though. Like, he is in a flotation device that is tied to a dock that comes undone, and he floats down the river. Floats down the Ganges on a bed of roses, and it's just fucking ends up, some random fucking place. This one just doesn't have a pug going after him.
I'm sorry, I did not have Milo and Otis on my bingo card for this.
It is, though. Like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. They find Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, these guys are doing their best Prince Humperdinck impression. action, and apparently it's working.
The fucking trigger finger thing it's just, this is almost trigger finger. And, like, everyone's just kind of like, cool. Like, no one questions it. No one's like, oh, good, this gives us information. No. They just stand there.
Cut back to Daniel and Pecos. They go into the forest and they go to where Paul Bunyan's supposed to be. So Paul Bunyan set a trap because he's kind of a reclusive figure.
Yeah.
And Pecos and Daniel walk into the trap, and Paul's like, "You guys better get on out of here."
Yeah, the trap. It's kind of like a snare, but it drops a cage on them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And when it falls, it lands in a way where there's like a pretty good size like twig thing covering Pecos's face.
Yeah.
So when Paul Bunyan comes out and he starts threatening them, and then Pecos moves the thing and is like, "Paul, it's me," and he's like, "Oh, is that you, Pecos Bill? Let me see." And then Patrick Swayze fucking like turns his head to the side like a model pose looking thing, and I'm dying fucking laughing at this point. And then freaking Pecos Bill's like, "Oh, you're still ugly." I love Oliver Platt so fucking much.
Yeah.
Give him an Oscar for every role he ever does ever. Love him so much. But then, yeah, they go inside and they have a meal with him. They do a good, because Oliver Platt is a big fucking dude. He's as tall as I am. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
But they do a really good job, particularly in that dinner scene, with making him look a bit larger than life, because the mug that he's using is like the size of a fucking 2-liter bottle. And they do a real, and like the spoon that Daniel's using looks like a fucking ladle that he would be using. So they do a really good job of making him look even larger than life, which he's already a big ass fucking dude.
Yeah.
And they also, wears a lot of like logging clothes, I guess you would say. It's like a lot of like road leather looking stuff that again makes him look even bigger. I mean, there's a scene a little bit later where it's like the 4 main people on screen at once, and dude, he's so much bigger than everyone else. And the guy who plays John Henry is not small.
No.
But I do like the size variation that they do with him. They make him look really larger than life. He gets a couple of lines that I saw some people online complain about a lot of his lines about being like too political and whatnot. I think it's fine. It doesn't really bother me.
I didn't really clock that. It's more just along the themes of the movie, which is like the old West was good, and progress for the sake of progress isn't necessarily like the greatest thing in the world and stuff like that.
It's a lot of these people being outdone by machines, and the world's moving on and leaving them in the dust.
Yeah.
It is funny that they intentionally go on this mission to find Paul Bunyan, and then like right around the corner, they're like, "Holy shit, it's John Henry!" Like, they don't look for him; he's just there.
There's no extra scene. There's no anything else. It's just they go out and back into this sort of deserty area again, and John Henry's there, and he's doing his famous battle with the steam machine.
Pisses me off. This is where I start to hate the main character, because he's a punk ass little bitch.
Yeah.
And they're like, even Pecos Bill is like, "Oh, it's okay. You did your best." No. Fuck you, kid. Your best was garbage. Your best could have been better.
Yeah. Yeah, because...
I guess we should probably give context to that. Main character sucks, movie bad.
So, John Henry's doing this battle against the steam hammer. And so he needs somebody to hold the
like the big rods.
The big rod.
He calls them drills.
Yeah. The big drill that he has.
I think he says like a shaker.
Yeah, the person is called a shaker. So they're supposed to carry the rods up to where he's going to hammer them in, hold them so that he can
hit him with his hammer.
Hit him with the hammer and keep it in there, and then shake it so that it stays loose, so that it'll go down into the rock. Easier and quicker.
No one wants to do it because they're like, if John Henry hits us with the hammer, we're gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
And then Widowmaker literally knocks the kid up, and then people just start grabbing him and throwing him to the front.
Yeah. So,
why the fuck are the drills? Why are they so far away?
I don't know.
Like, he has to go up a ladder with them, and this kid acts like each one weighs as much as the fucking Titanic. Fuck this weak punk ass little bitch kid. I hate this scene because the rest of it is so good.
Yeah.
John Henry is wailing on this. He's singing his song. He is killing it. And this kid fucking ruins it. How many steel rods have you picked up in your life?
Probably none.
I picked up one. We used to have a big tamping rod that was bigger than these, the same thickness, and made out of steel. It was like 20 pounds.
Okay.
These are not, they're not light, but they are not like, this kid is like at one point holding one and like leaning up against the rock with a tear coming down his, he doesn't actually have the tear, but every fucking other thing I said is true. I mean, this child is acting like his life force has been drained from him. Unlike the third one.
I was going to say, he only grabbed like 2 or 3 of them.
after John Henry's keep being like, come on, son, bring me to the next one. And he does it, and Henry's like, fuck it, I'm going to keep hammering this one.
The craziest thing to me is that Pecos Bill had such faith in Daniel to actually
what
be able to do
dumb
this.
motherfucker.
Like, what does he bet on this?
$100.
$100 on
He says even, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly that means in this case, but he seems surprised by it.
Yeah.
But I will say that when he first is like, $100 on blah, 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 and John Henry's like, oh, Pecos Bill, my friend, you can do better. Like, they're immediately their reaction. I'm like, this is where it's starting to get a little more towards, this is good shit.
Yeah.
This is what I want. John Henry fucking, he's so fucking good in this.
Yeah, Roger Aaron Brown's really great as John Henry in this.
He's so good.
But
and he loses because that kid sucks.
This story ends with John Henry losing because of Daniel.
You know, they say he loses, but the machine like drove the thing into the rock. John Henry splits the fucking rock. Well, I feel like he wins.
Only out of anger having lost.
Maybe that was the thing. Ready, set, go. Rah, fuck that kid. Wow, he won in 1 second. That's amazing. Just put all the drills in one chunk and just hit the one. That's how you crack the earth in half.
And then, so he loses. They go to the bar to drown in their sorrows. And this is, I enjoyed this scene.
This scene is good because it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
This is where you get a little bit of story building. They talk about the oath, and you never spit in front of women and children. One of these, like, the West is the best type things. Yeah. And then they go to spit and fucking, I think it's, I don't remember if it's Daniel or Pecos, fucking spits on this dude's foot.
It's Daniel.
Fuck this kid, man.
Because they all recite the code and they all spit, and then Daniel spits a minute after, hawks over his shoulder, and it lands on this guy's shoe. Yeah. The guy's gonna go and kick Daniel.
He should have.
All around
This ends the whole movie as Daniel gets beaten to death in a common bar brawl.
He's gonna have a fight with Daniel over the bar brawl. And Pecos is like, okay, let's just calm down. I'm gonna buy you a beer.
Yeah, dude, it's so fucking funny. He's like, let me buy you a drink, and the guy's like, oh, I appreciate that. What are you drinking? Whiskey. Ah, cool. And then he goes to do a toast, and Pecos is like, to the great state of Texas. And the other guy's like, you're from Texas, and then he starts trash talking Texas, and Pecos Bill is like, my friend, you can trash talk me, you can trash talk my friends, you can trash talk my horse. But don't you ever besmirch the good name of Texas. And it is so fucking funny. So yeah, after he says the whole, don't besmirch the name of Texas, of course the guy starts trash talking again. So he like punches him. And I mean, the guy he hits is pretty big, but the guy goes like 5 or 6 feet. Is like, you even punch like a Texan. And then he punches him again and knocks him through the fucking window. Like, maybe don't trash talk when you're fighting for your life to stay on your feet. Like, this dude wrecked your shit with one punch.
I did clock that when I watched it, though. Like, this guy is very much clearly larger than Patrick Swayze.
He is considerably larger. I think that's one of the reasons why when he punches him, he has to, like, lean on the table. Because I'm like, yeah, if not, this looks like a fucking child and a giant.
Yeah.
And then we get the fucking cameo. There's one part in this cameo that annoys me, but it is still a good cameo. Where everyone's in the bar and they're starting to like have a bit of a fight break out. Yeah. And then just fucking Catherine O'Hara walks in as Calamity Jane.
Yep.
And it's very clear that everyone in this room is fucking terrified of her. But she comes in and it's so funny. She's like, who started this? And the bartender's like, it was that guy. Shoots this dude immediately. And then she's like, who else? And he's like, it definitely wasn't. And he's like looking to like the side of him, like eyeball. He's like, it's definitely not that guy over there.
Yeah.
And then she shoots her gun and Pecos Bill comes up from behind the bar and he's like, Jane, it's been so long. I'm so glad to see you. He goes like, put a cigar in his mouth. She fucking shoots the cigar and he's like, baby, why are you mad at me? It is so fucking funny. She is clearly just not in the mood for his shit, and he's like trying to sweet talk, but it's funny because he's like, "Oh, are you still mad about what happened at like Amarillo?" And she's immediately like, "You bring up Amarillo to me?" And she like shoots around him a bit. The thing that gets me, she shoots his belt buckle that's in like the middle of his body.
Yeah.
What if it didn't stop the bullet? She's like, what did you, oh shit, you're dead. Oh man. Oh, I'm sorry about that there, bud. But she shoots a few times, and then this is the scene we talked about earlier where he's like up against the wall, and she starts shooting his outline as she starts at his feet. Once she gets up to about his knees, he just kind of calmly, like, he looks annoyed. Like, it's the face acting here is really fucking good.
Like this has happened before.
Yeah.
And he's just letting it play out.
Yeah, and he kind of like sighs a little bit. She puts 4,800 rounds of ammunition in this fucking wall. And then they get arrested.
Yeah.
And they being the three guys, not the kid.
Yeah, so...
You don't see it, though. You don't see why they didn't arrest the kid.
Yeah, I guess Daniel was gone for some reason.
I don't know. He was literally there at the table with John Henry and Paul. Why the fuck did John Henry and Paul Bunyan get arrested? They had no part of this.
Well, didn't they not join in like after everything broke out?
I mean, Calamity Jane shot a man. She's not in jail. I don't fucking know.
I always assumed she was like the sheriff of this
That's
town
what I
now.
thought, but she's like, who was it? That guy. Wow. Great sheriffing there, bud.
I mean, it was the Wild West. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so it's funny because John Henry and Paul Bunyan were trying to like de-escalate the whole time. Like,
God.
They were making like little side comments about how he shouldn't insult Texas and how Pecos should settle down, and then they end up all in jail together. And so Daniel, I guess by purposes of needing to be not in jail at this time, brings Babe, Paul Bunyan's blue ox.
Which, by the way, shit, we probably should have said something earlier about. There's a moment where they're traveling and he's on the ox, and Pecos says something kind of snarky about the ox, and the ox starts to slow down. Yeah. And he's like, what's going on? And Paul Bunyan's like, he's sensitive. You got to be nice.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. That definitely comes into play here in a minute.
Yeah, and he mentions that because it comes back into play here because Daniel hooks Babe up to the side of the jail where Paul and John and Pecos are, and he has Babe start pulling at the wall to try to break them out.
And just rips the fucking wall off of this building.
Well, first all of these guys in like motorcycles or something start coming in, and they chase off Daniel because during the bar fight, there's actually a nice little thing where you see a wanted poster of Daniel on the wall, and it says that for like $1,000 or something, he's wanted. So he runs off because these guys are hired by JP to get the deed. And Babe starts pulling at the wall, and then Pecos like insults Babe.
Yep.
And I don't remember exactly what he says, but
I think it's like, can't this stupid ox move any faster?
Yeah, and Babe
ox
just
stops moving.
And Paul, why'd he stop? You gotta apologize.
Yeah. I'm not apologizing, no damn ox. Oh, we're not getting out.
Cut back to Daniel running away from the motorcycles, and then you come back, and Patrick Swayze is just doing so much work to try to like smooth talk this ox. Right?
It's fine.
It's funny.
It's something.
It's funny. He apologizes, and he's like, and Babe starts pulling, and he just rips the entire dang wall down.
Yeah.
And so they get out. And so ensues now this little chase sequence where they're trying to catch up to Daniel, who's running away still. He ends up at the top of this water tower.
For whatever fucking reason.
And it's yet another, like, this is the most clear day for night shot because there's not a single star in the sky.
Fair.
And so JP ends up on top of this thing.
Fucking how? Where the fuck did he come from? Also, he has like a fucking Victorian era looking dagger.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? This is like the Wild West. Where did you get this fucking thing?
And so he pulls it out and he just starts swiping randomly at the air, trying to get to Daniel, who's slowly edging around at this water tower. And so eventually,
it is weird that JP is like talking to him and being like, you know your dad's wrong. You know, I can convince you should come be with me. Stab. You know, I'm like, bro, you just tried to murder him. Like, why is this kid still here listening to you?
Yeah, you know you should give me that deed because you agree with me.
Yeah.
You know progress is good.
Stab.
Stab.
It's fucking stupid.
So Paul runs up and finds them. He tosses his little hand axe or something.
His little hand axe is the size of a regular axe.
So he basically just tomahawks it up into. He catches part of JP's jacket, and so Daniel like trips off of the water.
Yeah,
tower.
it looks like he's gonna have a cool jump moment, and then no, he just fucking falls. And then, like, lands on... They used to have the thing where it would be, like, a few metal bands across, and they'd, like, throw a big tarp over it.
Yeah.
Just fucking crashes through one of those.
But not before Paul Bunyan, like, runs and jumps into the little tent area that it makes. And he lands basically on Paul Bunyan. Like, is that really gonna cushion your fall that much? I don't know.
He's kind of poofy. Yeah, no, it's fine. This scene does not matter.
But, no... It doesn't matter, except it's the same pattern of, okay, we've got this confrontation about the deed, where JP wants the deed, then we got this, and they get away again. So
yeah.
This is where they have the raft, right? Yeah, so after they break out, John and Pecos had run off, because they've got a raft lined up or something.
Fair.
They never mentioned it before this moment.
It's fine.
So they ran off to get that prepared, and they told Paul to go get Daniel. So Paul gets Daniel. They're running back. They're getting chased down by JP.
I love how they send Paul Bunyan. He is literally the one of the three of them that dislikes this kid the most.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you, man with giant murder weapons, go save the kid. Cool.
So they have all their animals and everything else. They're waiting. They push off as Paul gets Daniel onto the boat. Paul jumps onto the raft as it's floating away. And JP pulls out his gun like he's gonna take a shot.
Yeah, okay.
And then he's like, nah, let's go ahead, let's go.
And you just assume he's gonna shoot and like hit one of the three. No.
He just gives up and he walks off. And then we get a little... This is a really nice little scene here.
The next two scenes with the group are two I really enjoy. These are, especially in the cave, is where I'm like, this is starting to get into some good movie shit, and then the next scene just ruins it. But
yeah, so you get this scene where they're cruising down the river, and John Henry's giving a bit of his backstory and talking about how he and his dad would go fishing and stuff like that. And it's a nice little parallel moment to Daniel and his father.
And Daniel does say, like, I wish I had listened to him a bit more. I wish I had believed him. I wish we didn't fight so much. So you're like, okay, this is definitely going to come back into play later.
Yeah. This is basically the scene where Daniel takes his turn in his story arc to appreciating his father and his life that he has.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the that scene, you transition into an actual night shot where.
Well, they got to show the stars here.
Yeah. So they're in the cave, and this is the scene you were talking about with the stars and the light bulbs and everything else.
Yeah, because there was a thing earlier where Pecos had said, how did they get word ahead of us so fast? And then he tells him about, like, telegrams and telegraphs, and he doesn't believe him.
Yeah.
So here, Daniel's talking to all three of them about seeing pictures of New York at night, and it's all lit up, and they've got these light bulbs that can put out light brighter than 100 candles, and eventually you won't even need to cut firewood. And immediately Paul Bunyan interrupts. He's like, I like cutting firewood, which is really funny. But it is this funny thing where, like, they're all having this thing, and then one's like, oh, I think it's John Henry maybe. He's like, oh, I get it. You're telling us a tall tale.
It's Pecos.
That's Pecos that says that?
Yeah.
And then they all kind of start laughing. He's like, no, it's real. This is really a thing. And then they're like, well, if you have all that light, I think he says something about it. It'll just be like daytime all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how will you see the stars? Well, I guess people just won't see the stars. And then they all look up at the stars, and you're like, oh, fuck. This is a nice moment. This is some good shit. And then they fucking wake up, and they're all being held at gunpoint.
Yeah.
It is like the biggest fucking whatever.
Yeah,
it's fine.
JP's gang is caught up to them, and for some reason they go from the cave.
Yeah, they're outside.
They go back to the boat, I think.
Yeah, like, it's fine. This is also where the dream like breaks. So
yeah,
whatever.
Whatever it is, I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's all Daniel's fever dream because he's overheated in the desert.
Fucking maybe.
But
I will say this is where JP has the German pistol. Where you're like, that's a bad guy. By the way, while I'm thinking about pistols, there's a funny thing I noticed when they were in the town. Either when they were in the town or when they were leaving the logging company. Do you know the difference between a single action and a double action revolver?
No.
So a single action is when you want to shoot it, you have to pull the hammer back and then pull the trigger. Okay. Double action, you can do that, or you can pull the trigger, and pulling the trigger will actually pull the hammer back and release it. Okay. So a double action, you can just pull that trigger until it's empty. You want to know how many double action revolvers there are in this movie?
0.
There's approximately 1. And the guy is shooting it at Pecos Bill, and it's something he just pulls out. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, like 6 shots as fast as he fucking can, and then that's it. That's the shot. I'm like, that's a weird moment to have.
Meanwhile, Pecos and Calamity are just here with 6 shooters.
Yeah, just like each of them has a fucking drum-mounted fucking magazine on the side of these fucking revolvers. The worst one, dude, the worst one I've ever seen for that, there's 2 of them. One is in a fucking Steven Seagal movie that he has a 1911, and I kid you not, he fires no less than 800 rounds in one scene. I mean, he is pulling that trigger for everything he's worth, and I'm like, this scene's been going on for 2 minutes. He's still shooting. I have a fair bit of forgiveness with that in some things, but come on. Yeah. But I was gonna say the worst one with 6 shooters is the fucking Lone Ranger, the one with Johnny Depp, where towards the end the Ranger's on top of the train and the guys with the revolver, he's just like running the length of the train, just boom boom. I'm like, this dude has fired 5,000 rounds in the course of this one chase scene. Oh my god. But yeah, this was pretty bad. So yeah, he has them all at gunpoint. The 3 legends are like, we can fight, we've got this. Which, what the fuck? John Henry's like, we can fight back while he's holding a hammer. There are 7 dudes right next to you with rifles. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna win this one, bud.
That doesn't matter when you have Pecos Bill who can shoot your trigger fingers off.
Yeah, maybe not fast enough. He got his ass kicked in a bar. He got arrested by Calamity Jane. She almost shot his dick off. He is not invulnerable.
I don't know. He seems pretty invulnerable.
He actually might be. I'm not gonna lie.
But
maybe she did shoot him. Maybe it did go through the belt buckle, and he's like, I'm fine.
In any case, yeah, Daniel is confronted by JP one final time. JP makes his big pitch about getting the deed, and Daniel, gives up the deed.
Yeah, he even says, like, what's the point of fighting? He's like, I know we're gonna lose.
Yeah, he's not willing to fight, even though, like you said, all of the other guys are trying to be like, we can fight this. You never know until you try. So at that point, like,
it gets a little weird.
I don't know.
It sort of dissolves into nothing.
Yeah, the figures give up on him, and everything dissolves into nothing. Then he wakes up inside of the boat again.
Yeah,
and it's
still at his dock though.
Yeah.
So it's like it never came untied.
Yeah. So that is about the most like Wizard of Oz thing, like we were talking about earlier.
Okay, now that part's fair.
But so he's ended up back here at the house, and he goes to see his dad.
Well, he sees his mom first,
but yeah, his family, and they have a talk, and he talks about how he gave JP the deed and all that. And his dad, what does his dad say? His dad's like not blaming him for it necessarily.
I thought he still had the deed.
Oh, that's right.
Because he dreamed giving it up.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, Dad, I gave away the deed. Did you? What's in your pocket? Oh my God, the deed. And his dad's like, all right, this is weird.
Yeah, you're right.
It's it's fine. His dad is laid up in bed. He's injured. The son's like, I went on this journey, and the dad's even like, it's a heck of a journey.
That's
heck of a trip.
Sounds like something.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. He's not like, are you dumb?
But
Which
I
is
mean,
nice.
it makes sense because he was the one that was so insistent that Pecos and all them existed. So,
Yeah, that's
uh,
fair.
in it, in any case,
This is a dumb fucking scene coming up. Daniel's like, okay, I gotta step to him.
yeah,
He's walking through town and he's like doing the swag, the big shoulders thing. I'm like, you're fucking 12.
yeah,
You are the most unintimidating little shit I've ever seen.
You're not Kurt Russell walking down the middle of Tombstone.
Dude, he fucking, like, the way he carries himself, though, he looks like, he doesn't have a weapon.
Yeah,
Not even like a stick. But it is an interesting shot when he's walking up to where the train is coming through, like the end of the tunnel, and everyone's walking back past him.
yeah,
So all of the railroad workers, the inhabitants of the town that are there that are working, some of them kind of see him. There's this one older guy that I kept wondering. I will say I didn't remember him in the beginning. I think he was maybe just one of the town people
yeah,
that all of a sudden recognizes him at the end.
yeah.
Daniel's plan is to get in front of a train and physically hold it there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember being 12 or a human, but that's not how that works.
Yeah, so JP's finally just bringing his double-decker Wild West train through the tunnel. The tunnel's finished, finally. And so he's bringing it in. He's got William H. Macy and all his other buddies on the train, and they're like, okay, great.
Oh, yeah, they are like smoking, drinking. This is where he's petting the cat.
Yeah.
And then Daniel gets on the train track and makes it stop, which for me, I'm like, I have a technical question. They're coming out of a tunnel. It's black. There's not a windshield in the front of that fucking train. This kid's right in front of it. How the fuck did they know to stop? That would have made a very funny end of this story. I'm taking a dramatic stand for my... Oh, shit. Well, that kid's dead.
So JP comes around to the front of the train, and he gives his big evil speech like, okay, I've won already. You don't need to fight this thing, but good job for trying anyway.
Yeah.
And
in fairness, he does tell him to move.
Yeah, he does tell him to move. Daniel refuses to move, and he's like, run him over.
Yeah.
So,
and
casual child murder.
Fucking kind of, because first off, he's under the train. When he's up under there, I'm like, dude, there's so much room. But this is another thing where you're like, oh, he's going to have a cool moment. No, he immediately crumples like a rag doll under this and starts going, help me, help me. Yet again, sounds just like that.
Yeah, he tries to like push the train back as it starts moving forward. It's obviously not going to work.
No. I will say the front of the train looks fucking sick.
Yeah, it's got these like eagle wings or
yeah,
something.
It looks pretty
on.
fucking
like,
cool.
It's a cool looking train design. Daniel slips under the track.
Like a bitch.
And then all of a sudden the train comes to a halt and John Henry's here holding the train back.
There are three cool effects of this. First off, is you see the wheels of the train slow to a halt.
Yeah.
That, I think, is a good shot. When Daniel looks, he sees John Henry's feet, and you can see they're, like, dug into the ground.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing. This is one of those things that, for me, I always notice when they get it right, is the idea of if you're in a movie and you're doing... We've talked about coffee cups. The idea of you holding something that is supposed to have weight, a lot of people don't do it right. Yeah. When you see people move, like... a concrete brick in a TV show or movie, and the fucking Iron Man with the car battery in the first, those things are fucking heavy, and he's carrying around like it's nothing. When John Henry is pushing on that train, you can see he is straining.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously not pushing a real fucking train. I say that, maybe fucking this movie, this budget, maybe they did have a real fucking train.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's real enough that you can physically see he's, like, pushing his training, and it looks so fucking good. It is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Even though he's, holding a train, and that's impossible. But anyway.
Yeah, that's really well shot, I will say.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Seeing the feet dug in and seeing his... I mean, the dude's pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
And to see him, like, spread out fucking holding the front of that train, that's good shit.
Yeah, so Daniel climbs out from under the train by the wheel casing.
Yeah.
And And he's like, John Henry!
Yeah, by the real case, if John Henry had sneezed, that kid's in 2 fucking pieces so fast.
But he has another little heart-to-heart with John Henry about how you gotta fight back and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And this starts to... And the onlookers are like, okay, this guy was about to kill this kid that we all know. So maybe this isn't the best thing in the world for us to be like.
Yeah, they don't act yet, but
No.
you can see that they start that.
Yeah, because then JP sends all of his henchmen out with all their guns.
Yes, he straight up is like, kill them. Some of them come up. One of them takes a rifle and puts it in John Henry's face and then doesn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, they're like waiting for the the order to finally shoot.
He already gave it. He said murder them. Gotcha, son.
But it's enough time for Pecos Bill to show up.
He comes through the crowd, which I do like.
He comes through the crowd.
I like that.
And he...
This is that scene I was talking about earlier.
He gives a little bit of back and forth and a warning, and then he ends up shooting off all the trigger fingers of the hench.
And yet again, you want to know how you know he shoots off trigger fingers? Because every one of them goes, my trigger finger. Some people behind him go, oh my God, trigger fingers. He's shooting off their trigger fingers. You hear the phrase trigger fingers 95 times in this 15 seconds. And he is like shooting. He like overlaps his hands, like shoots one hand and like focuses on the other. Like he... just shooting just fucking cap guns like a motherfucker, dude.
It's just Patrick Swayze having fun. And so all of the guys are without their trigger fingers, so they can't shoot anybody.
Some of them are still kind of like around. The funniest fucking thing is the older guy who earlier was like, Daniel fucking pulls up a double barrel and boom, boom.
Just shoots one guy.
You don't see anyone fall, though. Because I was like, how fucking funny would it be? My trigger finger. Oh, shit. That senior citizen just erased half of that dude's head. Like, damn. Or I thought maybe he was going to shoot JP or something. Because JP is still at the top of the train.
Yeah.
He boom. And then he says, let's go get him. I'm like, maybe you should reload first?
Yeah, the whole town just kind of is showing up by this point. And they all charge the train. Some of them start pushing on the train with John Henry, and some of them are beating back like the guys who were running away with their trigger fingers.
Doesn't take a lot at that point. Most of them are still being like, my trigger finger.
And JP is up here on the train still like, what? What are you doing? What? Keep fighting. What are you doing?
Yeah. Switch hands.
So they start actually pushing the train back. You see the train like going in reverse.
Yeah.
Back through the tunnel.
And as they're getting it right towards it, starting to get into darkness, is when he's yelling, I'll pay $150 an acre, 200, 3, I'll pay you 500 an acre. So that's why I'm like, how the fuck much was he paying in the beginning that now he's up to 500? But then it's funny because they push it and then they stop. And the train keeps going for so long backwards.
Yeah, it's like the conductor was just like, okay, I'm going in reverse.
Yeah, like, fuck it, there's a lot of people, this is fine.
And then you cut back into the actual tunnel, and you see Paul Bunyan like chopping at the wood that's holding the cave up, the tunnel up, and
with his fucking dwarvian axe.
Yeah,
it is a good thing that we talked about this a little bit in Princess Bride, where I liked it when he was in there and he's cutting the things with the machete, and you could see a lot of them were pre-cut, but it was in a way where it still looked like it cut.
Yeah.
I like that when he's hitting the giant fucking wooden bars, they're not just like breaking, it looks like they are cutting. Yeah. That's just a nice effect that I like, because it looks good. Despite the fact his axe probably has a 40-pound fucking axe head on the end of it.
Yeah. So he finally cuts all but one. He walks out of the tunnel, and he hands little Daniel this
axe the size of his body.
And he's like, one more ought to do it.
Yeah.
So Paul Bunyan likes the kid now. I don't know.
I mean, the kid is about to commit his first murder, so. He is. He straight up murders this dude.
Yeah. So Daniel walks in, and he goes to the final beam that's there, and JP comes out of the darkness.
For whatever fucking reason.
He gives his big soliloquy about how progress is coming and everything's happening. That scene that I was talking about in the trailers on the VHS where he's like, we're coming. Daniel declares, not on our land. Swings this axe and just takes out the final bar in like one swing. And then...
Which I call bullshit on.
and then the entire tunnel starts to collapse. He drops Paul Bunyan's axe in
fuck
the
that.
tunnel.
That is a fucking Skyrim legendary item right there. Some motherfucker is gonna get a side quest to have to go in there and retrieve that axe.
So everything starts collapsing. JP is like watching the tunnel collapse around him, and he starts shooting as Daniel's running off, trying to catch him in the back, and the tunnel just collapses. And you get that little moment where they try to make you think maybe Daniel didn't make it out, and the whole town's like watching, and then he emerges from the dust cloud.
Of course.
And everything's happy and hunky-dory, and he saved the town.
Yay. Even though this tunnel's definitely still here, now it's just full of shit and possibly dead bodies. Yay.
So that's basically the last big thing that happens. You get a scene immediately after where Daniel's working the farm and he's planting seeds in the fields. His father hobbles up and is like, okay, that's enough for the day. We've done enough.
Yeah.
And they have an exchange where they say they love each other, and thus culminating Daniel's arc of like, okay, my father doesn't understand me and I don't want to work this farm too. Now I'm happy to work this farm and I left my father.
Yeah. Yay.
He tells his dad to go on back to the house for dinner. I'll catch up in a second. I want to hang out. And this is when you see Pecos and John Henry and Paul one last time. Paul gives him like a big old bear hug.
Yeah, he does. Like shakes him side to side a bit.
Yeah. So Paul's completely come around on Daniel now, even though Daniel gave up on everything that they were supposed to be working on.
Yeah, and he fucking left his axe.
Yeah. But I didn't even think to look. Does he actually have the axe back when he's riding off with John Henry? I didn't look.
He's still got the one that's here on his waist, but
Yeah.
I did not see the big one.
And then
he says he's gonna go to Alaska.
Yeah, he says he's gonna go to Alaska because they've got new trees planted there and stuff like that. Which cool.
Fair.
And then John Henry. I don't remember exactly what he says. He gives him a big handshake.
He says he's gonna go challenge that machine again, and the kid's like, "If you ever need a shaker, let me know." He's like, "I will do it." I'd have been like, "Fuck you, kid! I'd have won that shit the first time. Wasn't for you. I'm gonna get a real fucking person this time." Fuck you, slaps the kid.
In any case, he and Paul then. We haven't really mentioned it. John Henry has a donkey that he rides through the whole thing, so they ride off. And they disappear into nothing.
I will say before that is when Stephen Lang turns around and sees them.
Oh yeah,
he does. True. Yeah, he does have a moment where he looks, and I think they even like maybe take a hat off or tilt a hat towards him, and he does the same to them.
No, they're reciting the code.
Yeah.
So they start to recite the code as they're about to turn away. His father just, I guess, senses it or something. Turns around.
He's like, "There's something cool happening nearby."
He turns around and looks, sees them all with their hats off, reciting the code. He takes his hat off. And once the code is done, he turns around and he walks the rest of the way to the house.
You really think if I saw a fucking blue ox, I wouldn't be like, "I'm gonna talk to that dude"? But yeah, you are right. As they go to ride away, they do just fucking disappear.
Which once again blurs the lines of what is real and what is not.
It's fine.
Which doesn't matter, but it does matter.
It doesn't matter, but it bothers me.
And then he and Pecos have their final heart-to-heart. Pecos gives Widowmaker to Daniel. I guess Daniel's earned it.
He mentioned earlier that because Daniel was in the horse's face and said the horse's name, and the horse just knocked him over, and he's like, yeah, he's really particular about who can talk to him or whatnot. So he says, "Why don't you get up on Widowmaker?" And he's like, by myself. And I think he says something like, "You've earned it."
Yeah.
And he gets him up on it, and then he starts riding Widowmaker, and then he being Pecos Bill reaches down on the ground because all of a sudden there's a lasso on the ground, magic, and then that's when he's like, you can
handle this now.
Yeah, you can keep Widowmaker. He does have some line about you're good now, Daniel, or something.
Yeah.
And then the fucking Twister comes down right beside his house, and I was like, oh my god, how fucking funny. Oh my god, how funny would it be if after all of this Twister just destroys their whole fucking house? Oh my god, I'd laugh so hard.
That's all I could think about was the family inside the house. Oh my god, there's a Twister outside. What the?
The skies were clear 2 seconds ago.
So anyway,
we hear a man yelling.
Eventually, Daniel turns around, realizes Pecos isn't around anymore, sees him walking towards the Twister, and is like, "What are you gonna do, Pecos?"
Yeah.
And then Pecos gives his big recital of who he is one more
I'm the
time.
rootinest tootinest.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Which it's kind of nice in a way to see Patrick Swayze enjoying himself so much in that moment and kind of like being that larger than life figure because
we kind of skipped over it a bit. I think when he gives JP the deed in his dream, all three of the legends start reciting their things, and I was like, "Fuck, we missed that. That was a cool fucking moment."
Yeah.
John Henry starts singing his song. Paul Bunyan and Pecos are both talking about like, I can out-eat any man with my appetite. I can swing better. I'm the rootinest tootinest. I was like, damn, we fucking forgot that. That was good shit too.
Yeah, I hate that we forgot that. That sucks.
We mentioned it now. We're good.
So anyway, like you said earlier, the CG on the tornado itself when it first appears isn't too bad.
Yeah, when it's coming down, it's good. When he's riding it, I mean, you've got to put a person on it. So
you're keying Patrick Swayze into a tornado in 1995.
It's still not horrible.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It doesn't take me out of the moment.
He rides the Twister off, and that's basically the story.
That's literally it. There's like a still shot of Daniel riding this horse, and it like goes up,
like, rears up, and it's
supposed to be a still shot. He looks fucking terrified. The last shot of this movie is not a good shot. It should be him being like, "Yeah." This poor child looks like he's holding on for dear fucking life. I can roll with it. It's fine.
It works. It cuts to the end, and you get the credits and all that. I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't like some sort of like tie-in pop song that didn't play over the credits. Like this movie feels like one of those Disney movies that should have had like a pop song that tied in with it somehow.
Fair.
But then again, it would have been more like the Wild Wild West at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, we didn't really talk about the music in this. It's there.
It's very classic Western.
Yeah, it doesn't really do a lot.
I like it. It's not like anything special or anything like that. It at times makes me think of the music from Angels in the Outfield. I don't know why.
I haven't seen that movie in 20 years.
But it feels very much just like live action Disney movie from the 90s score.
I feel like usually they would have at least one moment that the music would really hit, though.
Yeah.
I don't know that this one ever. I don't know that I ever really noticed it.
I
think the closest is maybe when Pecos first showed up.
Either that or, honestly, the music over when Pecos flies off for the final time in the Twister. I think that.
I just remember laughing at that kid fucking shitting himself on this horse.
But it's fine. It works. It works. I don't remember who did the music, but
I didn't even look it up.
So yeah, that's Tall Tale.
It's one of those movies we put on the list, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And then I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that's not quite the way I remembered it."
Yeah, I remember. I watched it like sometime last year or something like that, and I was like, "Man, this is fun." I'm gonna tell Bradley we should talk about this.
And then we put it on the list, and then we both rewatched it, and that's when I was like, "Oh, I don't know."
There's not really a whole lot of plot, so what are we gonna say? But we've made a pretty decent sized episode.
I mean, to be fair, this movie, even though the plot wasn't super extensive, getting to talk about the characters and the actors and whatnot that went into it, that's fun. Yeah. Because this is one of the most stacked casts I've seen in a movie in a while.
Yeah.
I say that. We just watched Apollo 13, and that movie's fucking up there, too.
Yeah. Like, I will say, this movie is kind of one of those you have to go into it just knowing what it's probably going to be off the bat, and then you judge it accordingly. Like, you can't put it up against like Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it's not Citizen Kane. It's just kind of a dumb good time.
Yeah, it's a dumb good time. It's fun. I like it. I'll watch it again at some point.
Yeah, but honestly, if nothing else, John Henry and Paul Bunyan, those two together are worth the price of admission. I would honestly even say just John Henry.
Honestly, I'm a big Patrick Swayze fan, so I would watch it anyway.
I'm not,
but that's just me.
He's fine. I think the best thing he ever did was the SNL skit with Chris Farley. I think that's probably the.
That one is funny.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly. It is not a bad movie. It's just not for me great. I think it's certainly worth a shot, worth a watch. I think especially honestly if you have kids.
Yeah,
I could see being a parent and watching this with kids and really enjoying it.
Yeah, it'll just be a whole lot of fun just to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
And your kids will be engrossed in it, and you get that hour and a half of peace.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
I'm curious of anyone that was either born, around the same time, before, after, if you have any memory of this movie. And like I said, if it wasn't for the TNT channel showing it every 5 minutes when I was a kid, I don't know that I would have remembered this all that well. So if you do have any kind of memory, history with this movie, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear sort of what everybody thinks about this movie. I feel like this is one that a lot of people look back on fondly.
Yeah.
Even if they haven't necessarily watched it in a while.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. And in the meantime, I'm Bradley.
And I'm Brendan.
And this has been Story Proof.